Okay, so today we're diving into Anduril Industries.
Mm-hmm.
This company, yeah, they're really making a name for themselves in the defense tech world.
Mm.
And we're going to be looking at excerpts from their Wikipedia page.
Okay.
And it's pretty wild stuff, I got to say.
Yeah, Anduril is fascinating. I mean, they're really shaking things up in what's usually a pretty, slow-moving industry.
Right, it's like Silicon Valley collided head on with traditional defense contracting.
Exactly, and that's actually a great comparison because
Yeah.
they've really brought that startup mentality to defense, which is not something you see very often.
Well, so for those of us who maybe haven't been following every twist and turn in the defense sector, what exactly is Anduril all about?
Well, they're all about building the most advanced tech they can for defense and security applications, and they were founded in 2017, so they're relatively new on the scene, but they've already made a huge impact.
And when we talk about the names behind it, I mean, Palmer Luckey, right? The
Yeah.
Oculus VR guy, that's a big deal.
Oh, absolutely. Huge name recognition there. And, after selling Oculus to Facebook, he starts Anduril because he really believes that you can solve these complex defense challenges using cutting-edge tech.
So you've got this kind of entrepreneurial spirit combined with this really deep knowledge of technology,
And it's not just Lucky himself. The whole founding team is like a who's who of the tech world.
right? It's not just one guy in a basement, right?
Not at all. I mean, you've got Trey Stevens with his background in data analysis from Palantir. Then there's Brian Shimp, who is at SpaceX, so he knows engineering and aerospace tech like the back of his hand. And then you've got Matt Grimm, formerly of Google, and he is a true software wizard.
Okay, so this is a serious team with some serious backing, and they're going after some seriously big goals.
Definitely not a small operation by any means, and they've already achieved a lot. I mean, major contracts, especially with the US and UK governments, so they are a force to be reckoned with in the defense tech space.
So they've got the talent, the contracts, but what really sets them apart? I mean, the defense industry is a crowded space. What makes Anduril stand out from the pack?
A few things. First, their focus on software is huge. Their Lattice operating system is really the core of everything they do.
So it's less about building individual gadgets and more about building a system where all these things can talk to each other, right?
Exactly. Lattice is like a nervous system that connects all their different sensors and systems. It's all about integration.
So it's like taking all these different pieces of information from drones, cameras, radar, whatever it might be, and then using AI to actually make sense of it all.
Precisely. Lattice takes in all that data, makes sense of it, and helps decision makers make faster and more informed decisions. It's incredibly powerful.
That's pretty amazing. I mean, it's like having a super brain that can process information from a million different sources at once.
It really is. And that leads to the second thing that makes Anduril different, their speed and agility. They're known for developing and deploying technology much faster than traditional defense contractors. It's more of a tech startup approach than a giant bureaucratic one.
So it's about being nimble, adaptable, and really software focused. That's a potent combination, especially in a field that's often associated with being slow and bureaucratic.
Right. Anduril is turning that stereotype on its head. They're not just building gadgets, they're building an interconnected, AI-powered defense ecosystem. And that's a game changer.
Okay, so they're shaking things up with their approach, but what are they actually working on? What are some of the specific things Anduril is known for?
Well, one of their big focuses is autonomous systems. Think drones and underwater vehicles that can operate with very little human input. They're really pushing the boundaries of what's possible with autonomous tech.
Autonomous systems. That sounds like something straight out of science fiction.
It does, doesn't it? But this is real-world tech with some big implications.
So we're talking drones that can basically think for themselves. What does that mean for the future of warfare?
It's a complicated question and one that we're still trying to figure out, but Anduril is definitely at the forefront of this technological revolution.
It's not just about drones, though, right? What else are they focusing on?
Another major area for them is border security. They're developing tech to monitor borders, track activity, and potentially deter illegal crossings. We're talking advanced sensors, AI-powered surveillance, and autonomous patrol systems.
So they're involved in some pretty complex and sensitive areas.
Definitely. It's cutting-edge tech, but it also raises a lot of questions about ethics and the role of technology in society.
Right, because on the one hand, you have the potential to make things safer, more efficient, but on the other hand, you have these big questions about privacy and the power of AI.
Exactly. It's a balancing act, and there are no easy answers.
Border security, it's such a hot-button issue these days. And it seems like technology is playing a bigger and bigger role, but it's not just about borders, is it? I mean, Anduril is also working directly with the military on other applications, right?
Oh yeah, absolutely. They're involved in a whole range of military projects, including counterterrorism efforts. Their systems can be used for intelligence gathering, tracking potential threats, even helping to prevent attacks.
So it's not just about keeping an eye on things, it's about actively trying to get ahead of threats.
Right. And they've developed some seriously impressive tech for this kind of work. For example, they have this autonomous underwater vehicle called Dive LD.
An underwater drone. That sounds straight out of a spy movie. What's the main purpose of something like that?
Well, it's designed for long-range reconnaissance and surveillance. So it can monitor maritime activity, detect potential threats like submarines or underwater explosives, and gather intel in places that are really difficult or dangerous for humans to get to.
It's amazing to think that this is all happening right now. It really does feel like we're living in the future.
It does, doesn't it? And it really highlights how Anduril is positioning itself to be a key player in the future of defense. They're using all this cutting-edge tech to completely change the way we approach national security.
It's both exciting and a little bit unnerving, right? I mean, it makes you think about what all this means for the average person. Should we be concerned about these advancements?
It's definitely something to pay attention to. I mean, technology like this has the potential to make us safer, but it also raises really big questions about how much power we're giving to machines. It's a conversation we need to be having as a society.
I think that's a really important point to make. It's not about being afraid of technology, but about being informed and engaged in these discussions.
Absolutely. And the more we understand about these technologies, the better equipped we'll be to make sure they're developed and used responsibly.
Well said. I think that's a perfect note to transition into our final thoughts for this deep dive. It's kind of mind-blowing when you think about it. We've gone from, strapping these VR headsets to our faces to talking about autonomous submarines patrolling the ocean. I mean, it really does feel like we're living in a sci-fi movie.
It does, doesn't it? And it's not just about the technology itself, it's about what it represents. I mean, Enduril's story really highlights this much bigger trend of technology playing a larger and larger role in defense and security. And that brings up a whole host of questions about how these technologies are going to be used, what it means for the future of warfare.
Exactly. And it's not just up to, the experts and the policymakers to figure this out either. We all have a role to play in shaping this future. Being informed, asking the tough questions, getting involved in these conversations, it all matters.
Absolutely. The more we understand about these technologies, the better equipped we'll be to deal with the challenges and the opportunities that they present. It's a conversation that needs to be happening across society.
Well said. It's like we always say on Deep Dive, knowledge is power. The more you know, the better prepared you are to navigate this complex world we live in.
Exactly. And sometimes just knowing what questions to ask is just as important as having all the answers.
Couldn't agree more. So as we wrap up this deep dive into the world of Anduril Industries, let's leave our listeners with this thought. Stay curious, stay informed, and stay engaged. The future of defense is being written right now, and it's up to all of us to make sure it's a future we can all live with.